Rainier Arms brings you this episode of the QA. Hey guys, my name is Dave. Thank you very much for checking out the QA for January 2019. It is the first QA of the year, last Monday of the month. So of course that means it's QA time. Before we get started, be sure to email your questions to the address shown on the screen below. That is theqa@gunsandtactics.com to have your question appear on the show. And of course, one lucky question asker gets a prize thanks to our sponsor, Rainier Arms. So, without further ado, we have a lot of questions. A lot of them came via email, via comments, whatever. So I tried to pack as much into the show as possible, and I'm going to try to answer them as quickly as possible. So it's still a reasonably, lengthened episode, reasonable time period episode. We have, I want to say, like 13 or 14 questions. Yeah, 13. So let's get started. Number one is from Vaughn. Dave, how much do I need to worry about matching the bolt carrier group to the barrel in my build as far as head spacing? I'll be using a quality barrel and bolt carrier like Criterion Sharps rifle. Thanks. It is technically what you're supposed to do. So if you have a gunsmith in your area that has a set of headspace gauges, I would have them check them out just to make sure. Now granted, the majority of the time when you're using quality components, they will gauge just fine, but technically, in order to do things right, and as a gunsmith, armorer, to give you the proper advice, a proper build involves checking headspace. So yes, you should do it. It's up to you if you want to take the risk or not. The chances are pretty slim that if you're using quality components, it's not going to work, but you should do it. All right, this is number 2 from Duke. This is a really, really long question, and it talks about thread locker. This was from our thread locker video. Okay. Basically, the question is, seriously, it's like a page long. All right, basically his question is thread locker for gas block set screws. As opposed to blue or even the purple, he's looking at Permatex. Now Permatex does have different versions of products. They have a low strength, which is for small fasteners, purple. They have a medium, blue, and they have 2 different types of red. They have a high strength and a high strength, high heat. Even though both of the red technically require heat to remove them, it's just the high strength, high temp is a higher temp range. But here's what I would recommend. He looks like he got some samples and stuff too. Because it is a critical component, I run red thread locker, whether it's Loctite brand or Permatex or whatever. I use the high heat, thread locking compound for gas block set screws. Even though they're small screws, they're generally number 10 screws, and they don't take a ton of torque. It's in inch pounds, but I use red thread locker there because those are critical. I want to make sure those screws don't back out. Now it says he has the barrel and he doesn't want a dimple. Duke, I would highly recommend dimpling your barrel. It's really, really, really important. If you're not going to pin it, pinning it is best. Clamp on works too. But the set screw type gas blocks, you really should have a dimple, something for that screw to engage to prevent from rotation, to prevent from loosening or whatever. I highly, highly would recommend dimpling it. It's not that expensive to have a gunsmith or armorer do. In fact, it's quite easy, but I would highly, highly, highly recommend getting it dimpled at a bare minimum. You really, really should give it done. I wouldn't let guns leave the shop here unless the customer is adamant, and then I kind of let them leave at their own risk. But it should be dimpled, red thread locking compound. And if you haven't checked out the thread locking video, one-on-one video, I'll put a link up here on a card. But that just kind of goes over the different types of thread locking compound, the pros and cons to each, how to prep for it, degreasing, all that stuff. Again, a link will be right up there. Number 3 is from Steven. I wanted to get into IDPA shooting, and I have a Glock 34 that I built from a Polymer 80. I drilled out my own holes at the top of the slide. Does that disqualify me from using it or not? Because the stock 34 comes with a slide cut. Ultimately, you're going to have to check with the IDPA regulations to see if they allow that. And I don't know what kind of cuts you made. I don't know if you additionally made ports in the barrel or not. If it's ported, that'd probably be a no-go. But if it's just some holes in there that's similar to stock, your local range officer, match director might let it fly. But when in doubt, I would reach out to either IDPA with maybe a picture or your local match director or whatever. That'd be the best bet because then they can give you their interpretation. Now, worst case, you show up and you shoot and you have fun and they bump you to a different class, oh well, then you know. But I would just say show up and shoot, have fun, and then check with the match director to see how they interpret whatever work you've had done because I don't see a picture of it here. Number 4 is from Irwin. I have a stock AR which I turned into my competition rifle. Did several mods. One of them been changing my stock clamp Picatinny rail gas block to an adjustable micro, which uses 2 set screws. Are these 2 set screws enough to keep it from getting loose? Which type of gas blocks do I prefer? The 2 type of set screws are perfect. I'm actually going to put a video link up here as well where we talked about some gas block options. But yes, it is okay. But like I answered previously, you really need to make sure that the barrel is dimpled. It's basically just putting 2 small little dimples or divots into the barrel with a drill bit or a ball end mill. So it kind of provides like a cup, and then the screw can kind of lock in and nest in there, and then use that red thread locking compound on those screws, and it should be solid. Now, it's always best to pin for ultimate durability, but if that low profile gas block is going to be protected under a handguard, if you do it right, the dimpling and the thread locking should keep you just fine. Which type of gas blocks do I prefer as far as adjustable? There's a lot of really good adjustable. SLR, Cyric, JP, the Seekins stuff is all really, really solid, and I know there's more that I'm thinking. I can't think of the name brand necessarily. There's other ones out there, so just because I didn't mention one doesn't mean it's bad, but there's a ton of good adjustable gas blocks out there. All right, question number 5 from Jay Cruz. He wants to know if there's a real difference with gas system lengths. Carbine is harsh, mid is good. I'm very confused on the topic. Well, to answer it kind of in a short period of time, yes, it can make a difference. So I'm going to assume that you're building a 16-inch barrel gun because that's the most common. And with the 16-inch barrel, I would recommend a mid-length gas system. It's has plenty of dwell time. Dwell time is the distance from the gas port to the muzzle. So that's the time that gas can build. Carbine moves that even back, so you have a longer dwell time, which means more felt recoil, higher pressure. And I think it's kind of overkill for 16-inch guns. So 16-inch mid-length is what I would probably go with. It's going to be a little softer felt shooting, has good pressure. In my opinion, it is made for the 16-inch, and now there's even some companies coming out with an extended mid-length plus, intermediate. There's a few different names, but those are working just fine for 16 as well. So in fact, one rifle, I even built it up to be a rifle-length gas system with 16-inch, so there's not a lot of dwell time, but that's a dedicated competition rig, and I really wanted a soft-shooting powder puff gun, and so far it's fitting the bill. So, but if you were new, I would just go with the 16-inch mid-length. That would kind of be my recommendation. All right, what buffer spring would you recommend for an 18-inch rifle-length gas system? I'm having short stroking issues and have addressed everything but buffer system. And then another reply to that comment was the JP. So in my 3-gun rifle, or one of my 3-gun rifles, now it's I think my SPR. I kind of play musical rifles every now and again with furniture. But that's an 18-inch rifle-length gas, and I'm running the JP silent captured spring system, and what I like about it so I can swap out springs. They even have a new version. You can swap out buffer weights, if you will. They have little tungsten or steel weights as the buffer, so you can kind of tune that as you will. But with short stroking, I don't know what your issue is. If it's truly short stroking, you might not have enough gas, so I don't know what ammo you're using. If you're using reloads, that could be the issue. If you're using factory loads, it could be not enough gas, so too small of a gas port. There could be something plugged. It could be a gas key that's loose or have something in it, or you might need to open up the gas if it's an adjustable system, or it could be too heavy of a buffer, too heavy of a spring, or whatever. But generally speaking, 18-inch rifle-length gas system, assuming you have a carbine receiver extension, JP, otherwise they make the spacer. If you have a rifle, you could look at a different system as well, or you could even look at the A5 if you're starting from scratch. Those are all really, really good options. All right, number 7 is from Hydreka Bama. I like your channel, but getting tired of AR-15 stuff. Mix it up a bit more, please. I will. I do plan on having some handgun stuff, but the reality is, what people want, I try to give them, and right now they're wanting AR-15 stuff. I have some AR-15 stuff planned, but don't worry, I have some handgun stuff planned as well. All right, before we get into question number 8, I do have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Rainier Arms. If you guys like buying all the coolest, latest, greatest gear, especially for your AR and other cool firearm platforms, make sure you check out Rainier Arms. And what's even better is you can join the Apex Club for a low price of $99. You get free ground shipping, exclusive access, and a discount on all of your stuff, which could easily pay for the membership fee with your first couple of orders. So check out Rainier Arms, join the Apex Club, free ground shipping, early access, discounts, all the coolest stuff. No brainer. Rainier Arms is the place to go, and they are awesome enough to sponsor the show. Plus, I like the owners, the staff, everybody that I've talked to that works at Rainier has just been plain awesome. So that's why I really, really love Rainier Arms, the Apex Club. Join it, do it, let's do it. Plus, they donated a sweet prize for this month's giveaway. All right, number 8. I'm building an SPR. What Geissele trigger would you recommend? An SPR, special purpose rifle, assuming you're going to want something more accuracy driven. I personally prefer a 2-stage trigger just because I like to take up to that that first stage just to the wall. Then I can go ahead and prep my shot, break the second stage, have my shot. Now, there are a ton of really, really nice single-stage triggers as well. Basically means as soon as you touch the trigger, you should be at the wall. There shouldn't be a lot of creep or movement. Then you break the shot, boom, bullet goes down the barrel where it needs to go. That being said, it's a little bit of personal preference. I prefer a 2-stage trigger. If you want a Geissele, I would look at something like the SSAE. Really, really nice triggers. SSA is just going to be a little bit heavier, and they do come in either flat or curved, but also check out CMC triggers as well. They have some really nice 2-stage triggers, both in flat and curved. Very reliable, both make very nice triggers. And as far as 2-stage triggers go, I would say that those two are really, really solid brands. Awesome companies. Both people do really good work, and they both make really nice triggers. All right, number 9. This one's kind of a fun one. This is from Juan Franco. This is on my video talking about forged versus billet lowers. I'll put a link up there if you haven't seen it. This guy is a liar. All lowers are the same, just different shape, but all do the same thing. Sorry, I just had to laugh. No, I'm not a liar. Lowers are different. I've seen tons of different lowers come through the shop of all different quality and tolerances, and you can definitely tell a cheap lower from an expensive lower because quality control generally is more likely to suck on the cheaper lowers. Now, I'm not saying all cheap lowers are bad. I've seen a lot of cheap lowers come through that are just fine. I've seen even some expensive ones that have their issues. Lemons can happen anywhere. But the reality is they're not the same. And maybe we'll do another video talking about it. But I kind of did in that video, the lower video, talking a little bit about the differences. Number 10. And by the way, that guy is not eligible for a prize. So if it's number 9, we're just going to DQ it because that's not a real question. All right, great video. Probably a huge task or ask. Have you ever thought about doing a complete AR-15 build for beginners, like lower assembly, upper assembly, if you want to go that detailed? I think something on that level, quality of other videos, is not on YouTube. Cheers. Number 1, unfortunately, YouTube has kind of restricted gunsmithing, assembly, manufacturing videos, which is why even in some of my recent videos where I do an installation, I kind of do more of like a skip through fast segment, which actually people are apparently liking. I guess they like the editing and the kind of the pace versus when I would kind of show the installation. So unfortunately, YouTube wouldn't be the platform for that. Maybe we'd do something on the web page, but I'll tell you what, there's a ton of videos out there. I don't think any of them are like an online video class quality that I would like to do. It's been something that has been on my mind for a while, but I would need to hear from you because that would probably be paid content because it would be a lot of production, to get the right angles, to have everything prepped, a lot of editing or whatever. So there'd be a lot of time involved to make that, but then I don't know if the market would really bear it. So if you're interested in like an AR-15 build series, leave a comment in the section below and let me know that yes, I would love that, to watch that, or maybe if you're willing to pay for it. I don't even know how much a video like that would be worth. So like an online class is kind of what I would try to do. All right, number 11. What are the official rules for a vertical foregrip on a pistol? I've heard that if your total pistol is 26 inches with the stock, brace, then you can have a vertical grip. Mine would fit, and then he kind of goes on to what he used. So here's the deal. The ATF NFA regulations is a pistol is something that's under 26 inches in length, and if it is that, you cannot have a vertical foregrip. Then it becomes what's called an AOW, which requires NFA registration. Now, if it's over 26 inches, there have been some letters floating around there that then classifies the firearm as an other, not an AOW, which is any other weapon, an NFA thing, but just other firearm. It's not a handgun, it's not a rifle. Now, there are some debate going on whether you can have a vertical foregrip on that other firearm if it's over 26 inches. Some people have said yes, they have the letter to prove it. Here's the thing, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to give you any advice, and the NFA right now is closed for the shutdown to ask questions, but I have seen letters floating around that says if the overall length is over 26 inches, it's no longer a pistol, it's an other firearm, and then you could potentially have that. But keep in mind, the barrel length is under 16, you're still floating in that. Could it be NFA short barrel rifle territory with a brace? Make sure you're not out of stock on there, that kind of thing. Generally speaking, what I recommend to people who have AR pistols is do not put a vertical foregrip because you don't even want it to be confused with an AOW, a short barrel rifle, whatever. You kind of want to keep yourself clean. So I'm not going to give you legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. You can maybe consult with an NFA attorney or consult with the NFA direct. All right. If you zero the red dot, this is a zero red dot. This was on the video how to zero your pistol red dot. I'll put a link up there. And by the way, this spring when it gets a little warmer out, I'm going to head back out to the range and do some more content on red dot pistol shooting. I finally feel like I have enough experience now to kind of talk more about it. I'm not going to say I'm like the world's leading leader on the subject by any means. There have been people that have been doing it longer than me, but I've got close to a solid 2 years, and I've got thousands and thousands of rounds with a red dot on a handgun, a duty handgun, a carry handgun. So I do really feel a lot more confident to talk about the topic now. So I'll be doing some more content on that coming up. But if you zero at 10 yards, holding the dot at the center of the target, where do you hold the dot at 25/50? I presume you are aiming high, or can you still hold the dot on the target? The reality is you're pretty much holding the dot on the target. So in that video, I think I walked back to like 50 yards, and I was just pretty much holding center, maybe slightly above center. But the reality is you're talking an 8-inch target at 50 yards, and I pretty much just held there. Now, I will say this. Make sure you zero with the ammunition that you're going to carry. Believe it or not, I noticed, even when I just got a new gun with a red dot on it, and I zeroed it with 147 grain HST Federal ammunition, which is my duty carry gun, and I noticed that when I put the practice, the Wimpy 115 cheap, I don't even know bulk load it is, the point of impact was different. Out at 25 yards, even out at 50 yards. So you do have to kind of know. So if you're going to a class and you're going to be shooting the crappy practice ammo just to save money, make sure you know that the point of impact might be different versus the duty ammo, but I would always recommend zeroing with the duty ammo because obviously that's the situation that could count, or carry ammo if you are a permit to carry holder. All right, last but not least, what is the proper torque for different set screws? It is different depending on whether the barrel is dimpled. Are set screws standardized across gas blocks? This question is kind of mainly referring to gas blocks. So here's what I would recommend. Number one, contact the manufacturer and see what size screws they use. Generally speaking, most set screws in gas blocks are going to be a 1032. Generally speaking, for aluminum, the torque's going to be a little bit less. For steel, if you have a steel gas block, it's going to be a little bit more. It's going to be in inch pounds, and that's a dry spec. Now you can search screw torque chart, and there's going to be tons of information from screw manufacturers that basically will have the screw size over here, the material you're going into over here, and then the torque listings in inch pounds for those smaller screws. And again, keep in mind that's dry, not lubricated. If you lubricate it with thread locker, that does change the torque. And generally speaking, if the manufacturer of that hardware or the gas block says, yeah, it's 20 inch pounds, and then if you're going to apply some thread locking compound, you can contact the manufacturer and ask them, hey, does this torque spec include the factor of them being lubricated with thread locker? If they say yep, then you're good to go. And sometimes the instructions will say apply thread locker, tighten to this, so it's kind of implied that they've kind of taken that into account. If not, I generally reduce about 15 to 20% of the torque value to kind of compensate for that, because a lubricated screw, whether it's lubricated with oil or thread locker, can actually tighten up a little bit more than a dry screw because there's, obviously less friction. So that is that. All right. That's all 13 questions. I think we zipped through those pretty quick. Again, as always, if you want to see your question appear on the show, make sure you send an email to the email address shown below. Otherwise, you can leave a comment. And if you do leave a comment, please use the hashtag #TheQA. It just makes it a little bit easier for me to find them and make sure I get them all in the show. But we had 13 questions. Number 9 is ineligible because he called me a liar, and quite frankly, I don't like that. And you know what? My rules, my house, and I'm not going to account for that. So let's go to random number generator and get a number for our prize, which is the Rainier Arms Mars for a Glock Gen 4 and Gen 5. This is the magazine advanced release system for the Glock. This is a really, really nice ambi mag release for your Glock Gen 4 or Gen 5. It allows right-handed shooters to use their index finger to release. It does allow left-handed shooters if you don't want to reverse it. It's just a really, really nice mag release, good quality piece. This is an awesome prize. These are not cheap. They don't give these away, so really, really cool of Rainier Arms to give us that. All right, random number generator is number 4, which is, I believe it is Erwin from Austria. Erwin from Austria, I don't know if you're eligible to get stuff since you're out of the country. So you know what? I'm going to shoot you an email and we'll figure it out. If you're not eligible, then maybe we'll have 2 winners next month or something. But right now, the winner was number 4. So that wraps it up for this episode. We do appreciate you watching. Again, please head over to our webpage, gunsandtactics.com. Make sure you visit our sponsor, Rainier Arms, and thank them for their support. And as always, make sure you are following us on all of our social media platforms. If you're not a subscriber, I'd encourage you to do so, and please hit the notification bell so you can get all the updates on latest content. Thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great day.